Get Loud with Ingrid wants to loud up your voice. Tune in on Sundays 9 to 10 a.m. to hear individuals uncover their best selves by honoring their being. Tune in to hear a story that will change your thinking, your actions, and your results. Let's get loud with Ingrid right here each and every Sunday, 9 to 10 a.m. Let's get loud.
Good morning, Cayman Islands, and for those joining us by the internet, we just want to say welcome to another week on Let's Get Loud with Ingrid. Our guest this week is 25-year-old Delrose Alexander, a product of Jamaica and a daughter of the King. Delrose enjoys adventure, writing poetry, and most recently, cooking. She's also a lover of the creative arts, both visual and performing. She was a member of the Drama Society during her time at university, and those were some of her favorite moments. Delrose has been saved for over 10 years, and forgiveness, introspection, redemption, renewal, and self-acceptance are the overarching themes that describe her walk with God. She has served in various capacities in the church, including that of a Sunday school teacher and praise dancer. She holds a degree in psychology with a passion for child advocacy and care. It is her dream to see our children cared for both emotionally, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Her proudest moments coming into adulthood include learning to laugh and loving more freely. In this season of her life, her favorite verse is Isaiah 26:3. You will keep in perfect peace those whose minds are steadfast because they trust in you. To speak on the topic, Father, I forgive. Ladies and gentlemen, please help me welcome to Let's Get Loud with Ingrid, Mrs. Delrose Alexander. Delrose, how are you today?
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here. That was so sweet.
It's all you, Delrose. Delrose, you are a degree in psychology, and also you are a drama queen, for better word of a word. Tell us how the two come together.
All right. So, as a child, I've always been a person who enjoys watching TV and seeing people act. It's always been something I enjoyed, and even myself acting, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I never had the opportunity, to express that. I wrote poetry, but I also wanted to perform. Going to university, I realized that I actually had a dramatic society there. So I went to the University of the West Indies in Jamaica, Mona. Mm-hmm. And so I decided, you know what, I'm going to join the club. And from there, my love for theatre grew. So sometimes school can be extremely stressing, mm-hmm. but every time I go into that space, it feels like home.
Wow.
It really feels like home. And I met some of the best people I know now through that club. And so that's kind of how both psychology and drama came into place. Because what people don't know is that people just see theatre as entertainment, mm-hmm. but they are the persons who write these scripts and share these stories have something great behind it. There are many themes that come out, in most of the plays that I've been in, which include like dealing with traumatic experiences, death of a parent, dealing with social issues. So those are the things that comes out, being a part of theatre. So it's not just about, making jokes and laughing about and moving and being loud on the stage, but it's about, carrying across a specific message, right, to the audience. So beyond all the laugh, there's something serious. And I think that is what I enjoyed so much about theatre, because it was deeper than just a laugh.
Wow. Speaking of deeper, you mentioned too that you write poetry. What started that?
I needed a safe place.
A safe place
to express how I felt. So growing up, I was a child that didn't talk much. I didn't laugh much. I kept to myself most of the time because, I just felt like nobody really wanted to listen to you, right? So instead of, acting out as other persons do, I internalized and I decided, I'll just write. So words became my safe place. Mm. It's how I overcame a lot of things because I didn't have a voice at the time. I didn't know how to speak for myself, right? And so when I wrote, that's how I felt like, I had power. Understand? So that's how I came into poetry. And then I started to just write. I became creative with it. So even things that are not necessarily my story, but I would write about it. Understand? And what was my story, I wrote about it too. I used to have 2 poetry books, right? But one of them got destroyed in the rain.
Oh no.
I'm not really upset about it because that was a very dark place in my life. Wow. And so even in high school, in classes, I would be writing.
So you weren't paying attention?
No, I wasn't paying attention because I was really struggling and I just didn't feel safe talking to anybody.
Wow. You want to talk a little bit about those struggles?
All right. So because of my home structure, it wasn't the best. And I felt like, because I didn't know how to necessarily deal with it, knowing that it's not my fault, why this is happening in the home, having an absent father, being the firstborn, so I knew everything that was happening in the home, even if I didn't want to. Okay. So at times, I didn't know who I could talk to about stuff like that. And so, it carried me to a place of depression because I felt like it was my fault. Everything was happening in the home was my fault. The arguments that started was my fault. And this was edged in my mind, and I can remember vividly from even grade 3, where I was coming home from school, but I was delaying. Mm-hmm. So I was walking really slow, but my brother reached home before me, and I got home, and an argument started. I think my dad said something, and my mom replied, and then my grandmother replied, and then an argument started. And I internalized that I think the argument would not have started if it was not for me.
If you didn't get home.
Yeah, if I didn't get home. Right? And so that has always been like a theme of my life. It's your fault for good. Well, your fault. Anything that goes wrong, it's my fault. I did this wrong and this is why they don't want me, or this is why he left, or it's always been that feeling.
Was that ever communicated to you?
No. And we know now as an adult that that's not the case. Understand? But it's harder for a child that is seeing all of this but doesn't know how to process it and understand it as a child. It's easy to internalize it when you realize that, okay, every time that something goes wrong, you're in the midst of it. Right? So obviously you're the problem. Understand? And that was a theme for a long time in my life where, it was hard for me to trust anybody, to allow anybody in my space. Right? And even though I had a best friend and we talked about stuff, it wasn't adequate enough. And so that's how I ended up writing and dealing with the darkest times was through writing.
Well, you said here that you've been saved for a long time. So wasn't the church a safe place?
Okay, so I transitioned from one church to another in that period. And the church I was previously going, my father was a pastor over there, but things got really muddy, to say the least, and so I left. So coming into this new congregation, I don't know much persons. I don't know how they would see me. And as I said before, I was a shy girl. Right. So I didn't talk. Understand? Like, oh, wow, she doesn't talk or whatever. That's how people saw me. And up to this day, people still see me as that. But it's okay. And so, no, to me, I didn't feel like the church was a safe space. There was a few persons I could talk to, but my problem was that their solution was always, and I'm a Christian, but their solution was always, oh, let's pray about it, and or send you, okay, a hug, you need a hug or whatever. And I'm like, no, I want somebody to hear what I am saying. Understand? Because you're going to send me to pray, or you're going to tell me that you want to hug me, and that's not what I need at this moment.
Right.
So, and it's a thing with church where we're taught to wear a mask. Things are going wrong in our lives. We say, if God allow it, then it's just like that. But there's never any space for, okay, God might have allowed it, but this is how it hurt me. For that space to heal. It's never there. Understand? And so, becoming conscious of that, I realized there was no safe space.
Wow. So when you left, did your dad leave as well?
So the case is he left a little later, right? Okay. Where things became really bad that they had to close down the church, and he went back to where he was from. Right? He's ministering in a different church now, so things have changed.
Okay.
But I decided that I was not going to go back to that church. So I'm happy at the church I'm at now, right? But it was a hard period because, it was two levels. Okay, he was my pastor and he was also my father. Right? So living as a pastor and a father, seeing your daughter leave to go to a different congregation, it's hard. So it, always causes some tension. And it was a tension in leaving to go to this new congregation. Understand? So he didn't leave immediately, but he left eventually.
Because imagine being a pastor and your own child is not even in the congregation, the child left. So how did that transition when both of you were in the same space, which is home?
Well, the funny thing about it that he had stopped living with us at that point.
Okay.
Understand? So it wasn't weird for the home situation because he wasn't there. Understand? Because I felt like if I did not leave at that point, that my Christianity would have gone down the drain. I would not know where it would be if I did not leave, because I didn't feel I was growing. I was still struggling with so much things, and so I was saying, God, this cannot be it.
You mentioned that the first thing people say is let us pray, but sometimes people don't understand that although prayer is good and it's your way of communicating with God, that God puts people in our lives to also help us, to listen to us, listen to the cry of this child's heart and try to help. And how did that make you feel? Were you angry?
Yes, and I felt rejected as well, because here I am wanting to be vulnerable and show you I'm struggling with this, but your first reply is going to be, let us pray. You've not heard what we need to pray for,
about,
what we're going to pray, so we're just going to be beating the air in prayer because you don't know exactly what I'm feeling. And so for that reason, I became really, really, for lack of a better word, caved in. Right? I was not allowing anybody in my space, in my heart. I closed off myself to people. If I was angry, nobody would know.
Wow.
Right? I didn't talk about how I felt. Ever. Because I'm saying, it's a waste of time and it's a waste of your breath, because the person's going to give you the same answers they always give you. You'll feel better. You don't need to worry about that. Let us pray. You need a hug. No, I don't need a hug.
You need an ear. You need
I need somebody to hear how I feel. Understand? And no, I didn't really get it until way after that. I just decided, you know what? If I don't even start to learn to talk to myself, then I listen to me, then nobody's going to do it for me. But I remember one specific incident happened while I was preparing for dance ministry, and one of my older sisters, as I call her, realized that something was wrong, and she came to me and said, you can say how you're feeling.
Really?
It's okay to say.
So you finally found somebody who
understood.
Right?
And she became my ear, thank God, for that period when she did come into my life. Because, she could hear me and I could hear her. Understand? There was no judgment, there was no need to hide anything. And so we could pray together.
After speaking.
Understand? That was necessary at the time. And I felt like she was one of the persons who helped me to kind of find my voice. Wow. Understand? That told me that it was okay to talk about how you're feeling, to express how you're feeling, because as I said, I was really closed off.
Wow. Before we hear more about how you found your voice, we just want to remind our listeners that this show is brought to them by...
Mama always said, if you're going to do it right the first time, and take your vehicle to Superior Auto Center, a family-owned and operated business since 1995. Your family's safety is our family's priority. Superior Auto offers a full-service shop, including alignments, alternators, engine and body repair, and the convenient drive-through oil change. Don't take chances with your family's welfare. Like Mama said, do it right the first time with Superior Auto Center. Superior Auto Center located at 14 Sherwood Drive, Georgetown. Telephone 949-9570 or book an appointment online at superioroutokman.com. At Superior Auto Center, we keep your car in tune.
Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. Delrose, before we took that commercial break, you said that this person helped you to find your voice. How did your life change after that?
I wasn't the quiet girl anymore.
Ooh.
I definitely wasn't the quiet girl anymore.
Wow. But how did you feel though?
I felt empowered. I felt free.
Mm.
It didn't mean that everything about me changed, but I was able to express how I felt. I could speak about things that were bothering me and speak up for others who didn't have a voice. Wow. At church, they used to call me a child advocate because I would bring cases and I would bring situations to the adults because this cannot be happening in church and you guys aren't addressing it. I was that person. I became that person.
Wow. Your pain became your purpose, eh?
Yeah. I started to discuss things that other person didn't want to talk about in the church.
And how did that make the church react?
Well, I don't say this if it sounds like I'm bashing church, but there's always going to be a little drawback or tension between what they hear and the truth. But I believe strongly, and it started, and I can remember one specific day at night, we were having youth fellowship, and I don't remember what the topic was about, but I said no. They were making the youths look like, okay, they're the worst of the worst or whatever, and I was like, no. You guys need to understand that this is how they feel. Understand that, okay, sure, they're not always the best at certain things, but at the end of the day, you're there to guide them, whatever.
Right.
Which, a lot of persons didn't take it too well, but it had to be said. Because for some reason, and I don't think it's as a church situation, a Jamaican thing when it comes on to children, and if they misbehave, they class them up this or that.
Yeah, they label them. But I don't think it's only Jamaica though. It's almost everywhere.
And that's the sad part, right? But I can't speak for everywhere else. I know for Jamaica.
Yeah.
It's really bad. And so we have to try to change the narrative the best way that we can. And I went through my own rebellious stage, right? And so I knew exactly why I had rebelled.
Right, that's the thing.
Understand?
Can I ask you exactly why you rebelled?
Because at a point when you find your voice, you
gone off the script now.
You decide, you know what? There is a boldness that comes when you start to find your voice. Wow. There's this boldness that comes. And there's this daredevil that comes as well to be like, okay, I am going to stretch the length of this. I'm going to question things that people used to tell me, oh, this has to be this way. No, that doesn't have to be the standard.
Things like what?
Okay, for example, I don't know, but in Jamaica is a big thing. Come on to colored hair, right? Who you spend time with, like who are your friends, and piercings, and all those things in the church says, oh, no, about, right? And so, of course, I'm going to dismiss it. And I became that person. Right? That okay, they told me this because of this reason. I'm going to do the complete opposite. Because, in that time, I felt, when I found my voice, I was finding myself.
Wow.
I was figuring out what I liked. I was not just taking things from surface level anymore. I was questioning everything. Wow. Understand? And, to adults, it seems like you're being rude or disrespectful, but at the end of the day, the only way you can grow into your relationship with Christ, and this is what helped me, is to come to a knowledge of who you are, what you like, and how does it transition into your relationship with Christ. Because a lot of us wear masks and pretend like, oh, we're okay, we're fine, or whatever. But, when we sit with ourselves and realize, this is what I want, this is not what I want.
Yeah.
God, I'm struggling with this.
Yeah.
That's when you begin to get healing. Understand? And even though a person says, oh my God, you rebel or whatever, I am thankful for that period where I rebelled. Because you know what? I can look back and say, this is why you did it. This is how you overcame, right? And I can help somebody else to say, you know, this is not the end of it for you.
Wow.
That this might be a period where you feel like this, but there's going to come a period where you're going to feel okay and generally all right.
The thing that they used to tell you in church, oh, it's going to be okay. You want a hug, you're going to get to that point eventually.
Yeah, but you don't want to hear that when you're broken and hurt.
Yeah.
What you want to hear is someone say, you know what, I'm here for you, right? And so I can sympathize with persons now, you know, when you're going through a certain struggle or they're feeling like, oh my God, it's the end of the world. I can listen, I can sit and not judge because I've been there and I can understand what it feels like to want to be in a space where people care for you and you don't feel that way.
You know, I've often said, and I've said it even publicly, that people should seek help from those who have been there, who have gone through the situation, because maybe the people in church that said, let's pray, you know, do you want a hug? You just didn't know what to do because they never experienced it.
And that's okay.
Yeah, that's okay. And two, what I find if somebody comes to me with a problem and I can't help, but I know maybe of a Delrose, I can say, you know, I can't help you. I've never had that experience, but I know of somebody who can. Because a friend of mine who became a friend in the height of COVID, she reached out to a friend of hers because she was going through some struggles, and she said, I can't help you, but I know somebody who can. And she put her on to me, and it was like heaven for her because somebody understood exactly what she was going through. So it's good to know that you are that person for others right now, and I'm so thankful for that you are willing to listen, something that nobody wanted to do for you, but you're now listening to people.
Yeah, and I make it a point of duty, you know, to advocate for those who seem like they don't have somebody to talk to. Understand? So, and even now in my relationship with God and my walk and my willingness to love more easily. I remember, you know, when I was just finding my voice and I was just figuring who I was, I remember I said to a minister that I can love to a point, but no further. And that was a point where my heart felt like, you know, people are going to hurt you, so why give them the chance to do it? Keep them out. Understand? I was really closed off. You could call me asocial because I was not antisocial. But it was a point where I just felt like, I mean, because of the rejection that I felt, you know, a lot of pent up anger and fear. A person's hurting me, that to a point where I'm like, you know, I can love you to this point, but no more. Where I would never allow anybody to see inside of me that much. And sure, I was advocating for others, and sure, I was being there for persons, but there was still a part of me that I kept to myself. I wasn't allowing anybody to be in that circle for me and to love me that way, to be kind to me that way. Understand? And I was the type of person where I could be kind to others, but to receive back that kindness, I'm telling you, it was like, why are you doing this? And it was hard for me to penetrate me, to enter into my heart, into that space where, oh my God, you know, I freely love, I love people in. But now it's completely different. And, you know, sometimes when I reflect on where I'm coming from in terms of loving others, I'm just like, God, this has to be you. It has to be you.
So during those times, did you feel like a hypocrite?
To be honest, no. I never felt like a hypocrite.
Technically, you were acting out something that you weren't feeling. And in terms of a definition of a hypocrite, that's a hypocrite.
That would be the case, but internally I didn't feel like one. But it was not until I was older and I realized something's not right with this. You know, that I sought out to be healed and to be changed. Because, I mean, I can't be telling people about God and all of that, and at the end of the day, and how God loves you and all that. And at the end of the day, as First John tells us that, how can we say we love God when we don't love our brothers that we see every day? I'm just like, that's not right. And I'm saying to myself that there's no way I can spread God's love if it's not inside of me. Wow. Understand? And so it was not until I was old and I realized that you have to change.
All right, before we hear how you actually changed, I want to remind our listeners, Delrose, that this show is brought to them by...
Mama always said, if you're going to do it right the first time, and take your vehicle to Superior Auto Center, a family-owned and operated business since 1995. Your family's safety is our family's priority. Superior Auto offers a full-service shop, including alignments, alternators, engine and body repair, and the convenient drive-through oil change. Don't take chances with your family's welfare. Like Mama said, do it right the first time with Superior Auto Center. Superior Auto Center located at 14 Sherwood Drive, Georgetown. Telephone 949-9570 or book an appointment online at superioroutocayman.com. At Superior Auto Center, we keep your car in tune.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Before we went off, and before I even start speaking with Delrose again, our sponsor wants you to know that right now they're giving away free oil change up to the tune of $100. And the question for you, if you're listening, is what year did this business start? If you call me at 936-5683 with the correct answer, you would be the lucky winner of a oil change up to the tune of $100. Now, Delrose, how did you tune in to reality?
It was not until I was in a relationship with my now husband.
Oh, wow.
That reality hit and hit hard. That you need to change.
And what brought that about?
Okay, so if my husband's kind of person who's very talkative and sharing and caring, he's one of those persons. And he's willing to listen and very open. I'm the opposite. And during our dating stage, it was the hardest to open up to him. And even on things that I refuse to speak about. And this young man took the patience, had patience, all right, I'm going to give her some space until she's willing to open up. And bit by bit, and I'm saying, God, you're the one in this one. Because through conversations, through honesty, through willing to just listen, I was able to open up more. Understand? Like he gave me a safe space to open about things that were bothering me. When we had arguments, I felt like God would allow arguments to show that you're still struggling with this.
I like that. Because sometimes people look at arguments as though they're just what they are, arguments, instead of looking at the purpose behind the argument. Wow.
And I'm telling you, now my over 10 years of being saved, these past 3 years have been the years where I felt like God has drawn me and said, these are things I'm going to work on for you to heal. And I have given God the space to do it.
You made yourself vulnerable.
I have given God the space to change me in these past 3 years because of this young man in my life. Because, I feel like God sometimes put people in your life to prick you. And not in a bad way, but to help you to realize that this is something that you need to work on.
So, like, for instance, if a scab has been covered, to lift the scab slowly.
Yeah, because sometimes it looks like it's healed, but it's not healed. And so I've had to sit with myself multiple times.
I like that. Sit with myself.
And say, God, was I wrong? And even my reaction to certain things, reminds me that, we still need to work on this. And I bring it to God. I bring it to God. Because I've made myself vulnerable before Him. And not to get into business of marriage or whatever, but I remember there was an incident that happened a few months ago, right? And I acted in a way as if, because he played a prank on me. I'm going to just make it clear. He played a prank on me, right? So we were supposed to go to the supermarket. And I was, as usual, as a woman, I always take longer to get ready.
Yeah.
So this young man decided to play a prank on me and drive the car to the side instead of, being out there. When I entered the end, I didn't see the car. Instantly brought me back to a place of feeling rejected. Like,
wow.
Instantly. My heart had pumping. I started stammering. I started crying. I started getting nervous. All of one I was so angry. And I'm telling you, I did not go to the supermarket today. We did not. He went and I didn't go.
Even though you found out it was just a prank.
It was too far gone in terms of how I was shaking. It brought me back to a to a place I didn't know. I was still struggling with that. And so I decided, and I was so angry, and it was like, why would you believe I would leave you? Sure, you wouldn't have done that. But for some reason, it triggered something that was painful, a memory that was painful for me.
So who left you while it was so painful?
It was a specific incident that happened to my mom, because I remembered she was supposed to go to Mandeville. That's a parish in Jamaica, to visit a friend. And for some reason, I said, Mommy, don't go. I don't want you to go. I don't want you to go. But she went anyways. And I felt so rejected and so hurt. And that memory is what came to the forefront when he played that prank on me. Wow. And I didn't know that was something that I had to heal from, something that was bothering me, right? Until the day. And he came up and said, I would have never left you, and why would you assume I would, and whatever. And he got angry, which is understandable, and whatever. But I had taken off my clothes. And I had laundry to fold. So I said, you know what, I'm not going anywhere. And I sat in that room, and I thought about it.
While folding the laundry?
Yeah. And I thought about it, I said, God. And I said, God, I need help with this, because obviously this is still bothering me. And if that incident didn't happen, then I don't think God would have had the space to say, you need to work on this. And I've given God the space to work on me so much in these past years, because I want to be better.
You want to be better for who?
For myself, for my family, for the next generation, for whoever God wants me to help. And I can't do that if I'm helpless. I can't help the helpless being helpless. I can't help others to be healed if I'm not healed. I can't help others to overcome if I'm not overcoming. Understand? And so I made a decision that, God, you're going to get the space to heal me in ways that I didn't know that I needed healing. And trust me, He's been doing it. He's been doing it. I've always struggled with apologizing. And I don't like when people say sorry to me. Because I just felt like, you're saying it, but you're going to do the same thing all over again. So why apologize? You're wasting your breath. And I don't believe you.
So who used to apologize to you then?
My dad. He's always, I'm sorry, I'm always sorry, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. But it's the same thing over and over again. And so it's always been something that I don't like. But it was even hard for me to apologize because of pride. I mean, me to apologize? No. Because I've always believed, fair point is the only point, and that's it. I mean, it's beautiful when you find a voice, but sometimes you have to remember that, you can be wrong too.
Wow.
And so, in all of that, I had to learn to say, I'm sorry. And so now God is really working on my heart in terms of that. Learning to say, I'm sorry, and genuinely mean it. And I mean, sometimes it might be where I have to sit with myself and think about the situation and look at react better. I've been talking to myself more often in terms of changing, because it's been one of my goals to become a more wholesome person, a woman of peace. It's been my mantra for the whole year, right? To not allow the anxieties of life and the anxieties of what happens or what can't happen, to cause me to be angry or to be afraid. And so, in all of that, I've given God space to do His work. I mean, I'm not there yet, and there are certain things, you will never completely be there because it's a journey.
Yeah.
Understand? It's not a destination that you're worrying about, it's the journey to it. And so I felt like God would allow this young man to come into my life at this appointed time. At the time He did, to help me to begin the process of healing. It's not easy, and it was not nice.
Wow.
Because when you sit with yourself and realize that you sometimes are the problem, it's hard. You want to lock your eye. But sometimes God uses somebody else to be your reflection, to be your mirror, to allow you to see that, hey, you need help.
And sometimes what I found for myself is that when people say, oh, you think you're this, but you're this. I have learned now, like you, to think about it and really sit with myself and say, am I really like that? Because that's not a nice person. And God, you need to help me with this.
And it can't happen because, I mean, you see, pride is definitely a killer. Because when people say things to you like that, and even just generally be like, you need help with this or whatever, it takes humility to say, well, that's true. And even probably in the moment it hurts. But when you give God space and you humble your heart before Him, and He shows you, well, I know it's actually true what she said. But at the end of the day, I still love you. Yeah. And that is the place that we need to know to be at. That it doesn't matter how many times we mess up. It doesn't matter how many times God have to sit us down and be like, this is something we need to work on. He never does it out of anger. He does it out of love. And I think that is what needs to be transcended from the throne to churches and to families and to relationships. That you can correct somebody, but it can be out of love.
Yeah.
So
I strongly believe that. And the first time I got into that experience, when I said to the person, I said, tell me who you think I am. They looked at me as if, oh my God, what have I started? I said, no, I need to hear from you. Who do you see me as? And when they got the confidence, I think it was to just say it, I'm like, I thank you. And I went away and I sat with myself. Delrose, I mean, this is a process that I think a lot of people need to really start doing. Instead of, like you said, it's not easy when you hear it at first.
It is not. It's the worst feeling in the world. I promise you that. Especially when you see yourself as this prim and proper.
I know.
Have it all together.
Oh God.
That's not me.
That's technically what they said. You think you all miss prim and proper, but this is.
Then when you realize that coming to nitty-gritty of it, this, no, and you're just like, mighty God. It's a hard thing to digest.
It's hard. But before we hear more about how we can digest all of this information, I just want to remind our listeners that this show is brought to them by...
Mama always said, if you're going to do it right the first time, and take your vehicle to Superior Auto Center, a family-owned and operated business since 1995. Your family's safety is our family's priority. Superior Auto offers a full-service shop, including alignments, alternators, engine and body repair, and the convenient drive-through oil change. Don't take chances with your family's welfare. Like Mama said, do it right the first time with Superior Auto Center. Superior Auto Center located at 14 Sherwood Drive, Georgetown. Telephone 949-9570 or book an appointment online at superioroutocayman.com. At Superior Auto Center, we keep your car in tune.
Welcome back to the show, ladies and gentlemen. Before we went off, we heard how hard it is, I won't say was, it is to confront truths about yourself. And Delrose has been learning this through the process of marriage. So for those people out there who think marriage is just like, yeah, it's a bed of roses, it's a, how would you describe it?
I think marriage is like sitting in front of a mirror for a very extended time.
I
because I mean, this person is in your space every day, and if you create an atmosphere where your relationship can be honest and you can be vulnerable with one another, they're going to tell you the truth.
Wow. With that incident with the supermarket, so he went, but you stayed. What happened after that? How did you learn to forgive?
Well, how did I didn't have the help in my heart. There was no level of unforgiveness
Okay.
because I knew it hurt in the moment. That means I felt bad. But then when I was sitting by myself for a few hours, I realized it was you.
Wow.
Understand?
So you had to forgive you.
Yeah. And I had to ask God to help me to get through that memory because it was a memory that triggered everything.
And how did you get through that memory though? How did you process it? How did you get it out? Did you write?
No, I didn't write because and that's a funny thing, you know. Like when you start to discover your voice and be able to speak with your words, writing on paper sometimes doesn't do it.
You just got to talk.
You just got to talk, right? And it is funny because a younger version would have been like, "We're talking now." She'd be like, "We can talk." Understand?
Yeah.
And so sometimes only when I can't process it with words do I write.
Okay.
But the moment I can use my words or speak using my voice, then I mean it's easier for me. But that incident, no, I was folding the laundry and I was, thinking through it and I was praying through it and I was trying to analyze why I behaved the way I behaved. And you know what? I don't know if I apologize. To be honest, and maybe I should. I don't know if I apologize.
Well, if you didn't and your husband is listening right now, maybe it's a good time for you to just say, honey, I'm sorry.
Babe, I'm very sorry for that incident, okay? It was my fault. And so I take responsibility for it.
That's good. But you mentioned about your dad, though, that your dad was always the one who is apologizing, but doing the same thing that he was apologizing for. You want to talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so dad was the type of man to act out of his feelings sometimes, and through that he would say or do things, and then apologize after. But we going back into the same routine or whatever. And growing up, all right, you say you're sorry, but we know that's not true. And even if it's true, you're going to about the same thing. So why you're apologizing? Understand? I want to make it clear that I love my dad. I do. But as an adult, I can analyze situations now. I can interpret it as for what it is. Understand? And life with my dad wasn't the easiest, to be honest. And if you're from Jamaica or know anything about the Pentecost Church in Jamaica, they are very strict. Very, very strict. And you know what? When I think about it now, I think that is why I started to rebel. Because growing up at home like that, you can do anything.
Wow.
Okay, so you only had natural hair. You can wear pants. Right?
What about jewelry?
My ears were pierced.
Okay.
It was not until I was about to leave high school that I begged my mom to do it. And because my grandmother loves me, she begged on my behalf, and so I got my ears pierced for the first time when I was 16, I think. 16. Right, so from that, that it's a very strict woman group. It was only skirts. You can't even wear nail polish. I remember one time I decided I'm going to buy a nail polish and put on my toes. But I had to wear those slippers that were covered their toes, so that you didn't see. But it didn't make any sense because it just messed up. So, it was never free enough to, have a conversation or as to why you can't do this or whatever. And how I know it was really bad, there was this particular song that came out a long time. I was a little girl. It says, nobody wants to see us together, but it doesn't matter. Right? That's all. And I was on the veranda just innocently singing it. Whatever. Whatever. My dad came out and he was like, I don't want to ever hear you singing that song here again. I was like, I was just out there innocent, just minding my own business, and this man is going to come to me and say, "You can't see the song." And so that was a very strict home that I grew up in. Understand? You didn't have any free space or free will, nothing of the sort. It was not a cult, but you just I'm just making that clear. But it was a very strict home, right? As most Jamaican Christian homes are back then. And so I was uncomfortable sometimes because the slightest thing he did was trouble. I didn't get beaten when I was younger because my father always told me that there's no part of me that can take a lick.
Oh dear God.
I was a very small and meager girl, right? No, that I am old, I realized that was an insult, but it saved me from getting slapped.
Exactly.
And so I was okay with that. But it didn't take away from that he punished you emotionally. Understand? Which was worse than being slapped. I'm telling you. And so I felt like because of that, even to this day, if I know I have something to do and I don't get it done at a specific time, for some reason is this anxiety that somebody's going to come and somebody's going to scream at you. It feels like somebody's going to be like, when I get this done, whatever. And when I think about it, it's back then. Where it's always this anxiety to where if you need to get something done now and it's not done, sometimes I feel like I hear his voice saying or whatever to me, and it's like it's not a good place to be. And sometimes I have to remind myself that you're not in that situation. That is not your home structure now. The man that you're married to is not like that. I have to remind myself you're not in that situation because of how much it affected me, and I didn't know until I started living with a man. And so, the home structure was just always anxious or tense. There were moments where it was okay, but those moments were very short. And it became really, really bad, like coming up to high school. And I love my dad, but I didn't want to be in the same space with him. Understand? Like sometimes he would make remarks about my mom, and I hear them, and I'm just like, at one point I was like, God, I'm not married. I'm not married anybody. And because of how he was when I was younger, and as a minister, I said in my heart, God, I am never marrying a minister. I am never getting married to a person who was a title in church. Never, God, never. Because I did not want to relive my childhood. And it was like living a double life because he was one thing on the pulpit and the next thing at home. I understand. And I was like, I'm confused. How can you be preaching this thing? And then when you come home, you're a completely different person. The way you treat us says a lot. And I saw a lot of things happen between my mom and him, and a lot of things that I wish, and I'm being honest, I did not hear or saw. Right? Because it puts up a defense. No. I understand that, I'm not going to allow him to speak to me any way he feels like. And I always say, the moment a man puts his hands on me, that's it. That's it. And I keep those things in mind, right? It's like sometimes I feel like I have to have on armor because I'm just like, at any moment, I'm ready for war because of that. And it's like, I'm just like, God, no, this cannot be it. This cannot be good for me spiritually, emotionally, or even physically. This can't be good for me. Understand? And the situation with him was that he felt like he had to be the conqueror of all things. And my dad had a very deep voice. Right? And when he calls you, it is very frightening. Wow. And this is why to this day I tell my husband, do not call me by my name like that. Like, I don't know. And you're
That's
married
another
too.
healing process for you
Yeah.
again. Then.
And you know, as men, like sometimes they will talk loud, but then they don't mean anything,
Mm-hmm,
right?
mm-hmm.
But I'm just like, please don't do it.
No. But you told him why though?
Don't do it.
Have you told him?
I think I have told him, right?
Okay.
But it's a very,
Mm.
like, call me something else. Don't call me my name like that.
Wow.
Right? Because that's how my dad called me. And wrong or right, that's how this man's called you. And when it gets loud, it's frightening. It's very frightening. As a little girl, it's frightening. I mean, your dad is supposed to be your safe place, you know, somebody can run to and hug on whatever. It's not, no, it's not until now that I'm an adult that I can hug my dad. Or hug overall. Because I was never a big hugger. So, didn't grow up with it much. And it transcended to the rest of my life. Until now, you know, I'm more of a hugger. You know, I'm more open to stuff like that, to intimacy and to friendship and to all of that.
That's good.
But it wasn't a ill child. I wouldn't say my dad was terrible, but he wasn't one of the best father figures because this man did not talk
Wow.
until he was upset.
Which was not good, right? Which was not good.
So it tainted my outlook on men sometimes, if I'm being honest. Understand? So that is how it was living with my dad.
But now you're at a point where you said you can hug your dad, but have you spoken with your dad about how you feeling and how you felt growing up?
As I said, not necessarily.
Maybe it's about time.
Not necessarily. And maybe I should because you know it's important to confront stuff like that. But I've forgiven him for everything.
Yeah. But have you told him that? You see,
No.
that's the thing. So you have, but then you haven't said, Father, I forgive you for, or this is how that made me feel as a child. So he can get a chance now to really apologize to you.
That's true. And which is I think is a very important place to be. And I think because I've sat with myself and internalized that even if he doesn't see my point of view, doesn't matter to me.
He probably would.
He would.
Because I think God is ready for that now too. Because that's another part of your healing process. Before we conclude though, I just want to remind our listeners one more time that this show is brought to them by
Mama always said, if you're going to do it right the first time and take your vehicle to Superior Auto Center, a family-owned and operated business since 1995. Your family's safety is our family's priority. Superior Auto offers a full-service shop, including alignments, alternators, engine and body repair, and the convenient drive-through oil change. Don't take chances with your family's welfare. Like Mama said, do it right the first time with Superior Auto Center. Superior Auto Center located at 14 Sherwood Drive, Georgetown. Telephone 949-9570 or book an appointment online at superioroutocayman.com. At Superior Auto Center, we keep your car in tune.
Welcome back to the final 4 minutes of the show. We've heard from Delrose, her story on forgiveness, her story of how she got to where she is right now by sitting with herself, being honest with herself, being married to somebody who is like a mirror, and how the church has affected all of this for her, and how she has managed to learn to forgive. And the last person that needs to hear is her dad, that Father, I forgive you for, and this is how this made me feel as a child or when you did this. And Delrose, for those out there who have a similar story, because so many people have a similar story, what would you want to say to them right now?
I want to say, first of all, your feelings are valid. Because a lot of persons feel things but they don't know. Like, should I feel this or shouldn't I feel this? But I want to tell you that your feelings are valid. And that God loves you. And it doesn't matter what other persons have done. The one that created you loves you immensely. And it might take some time, but you will learn eventually to overcome what you've been through. And it's okay. Seek help if you seem as if you can't do it on your own. Go to a counselor, go to a friend that you can confide in to release it. But don't have it pent up in your heart forever. And just know that one day you're going to be completely all right.
One day. One day that freedom is going to come, right? And freedom is such a good place to be in. But ladies and gentlemen, you've heard it from Delrose. You've heard a little bit of her story. I'm sure she has so much more that she could share with you. But for now, choose to forgive as she has forgiven, and learn to know that it's okay to admit that you're not okay, and that help is out there, and seek help from those who have gone through a similar situation, not somebody who doesn't know. And if you're a person who doesn't know that somebody has come to, find somebody who knows, who can help, instead of let us pray or a hug when a person needs an ear to hear, for you to hear what they have to say. So just be mindful of the advice you give. You might be in love, but just again be mindful of that. Ladies and gentlemen, it has been another fine Sunday morning conversation, and I invite you again to join us next week for another episode on Let's Get Loud with Ingrid. Until then, have a great Sunday and a great week. And remember, choose to forgive.
Let's get loud. Let's get loud. Turn the voices up. Let's do it. Come on, people. Let's get loud. Let's get loud. Turn the voices up to hear that sound. Let's get loud. Let's get loud.
Let's Get Loud with Ingrid wants to loud up your voice.